All right. So I noticed that the tail, I thought it was already blended with the body because it looked good, but when I turned it off, I saw that it's pretty arbitrarily cut here. So sometimes you'll have to interrogate your different layers to understand what edges need to be blended. And so this was subtle, and I would have missed it if I hadn't checked. And then I would have printed it, and I would have spent the money on the paper and the inks. Maybe I would even get it in a mat in a frame, and then I would look close and say, well, those pixels don't line up. And I'd be really upset. So as I'm seaming it together, that's where it helps to be methodical. I'm going to use my 100% opacity eraser, get rid of that hard edge so that they start to blend together more naturally. Let's see, I can keep that one up there. And it's a little trickier with hard edge textures like this. Softer edges like fur, it's really easy to blend into fur. Feathers are slightly easier than scales, but scales like this, they're pretty unforgiving in terms of where you would expect that edge to be. All right, so I took care of that. So now I've got all my internal edges. Oh, I guess there's this wing. And the only internal edges that are the problem with the wing are coming from other layers. It looks like the head. Yes, so let me get rid of those with my 100% opaque eraser. Get rid of that. And then I have this thing. What layer is that coming from? So this is an internal edge because it's blocking the wing. I have to find out, there it is. It's from this layer. So I have to clean this up. And I can just use my 100% eraser to do it. But if I want it to be a lot cleaner, like around the scale there, I might use my lasso. And I have a 3-pixel feather on this. And this is going to move us pretty nicely into the next skill, which is trimming out the external edges. Okay. Let's see, is there one other internal edge I want maybe on this wing? Yeah, I'll clean that up a little bit. And then I'm going to take the opacity down. That scale be on top. Okay. So now I'm going to work with the external edges. So save my work. And how can we do this? I need to do it in a really efficient way, like a car manufacturing plant. So now that I've color corrected and I've done the internal blending, now I'm going to move all parts and weld them together on the factory floor. So what does that mean? Well, for me, that means taking everything that I'm using, except for my sketch layer and except for my background. So all of these layers that are making up my creature head to toe, make sure my canvas size is big enough to contain all of them. And it's a little too late, but good to check your image size and make sure that you're at least 8 by 10 by 300. Right? Mine's plenty big. My guy grew way beyond my sketch. But bigger is fine. Smaller is not okay. All right. Now what I'm going to do is select all of these visible layers by holding down Shift. Then I'm going to put those all into one group, make a folder. Boom. Now I'm going to duplicate that whole folder. Command J. And then on that duplicate, I'm going to right click and I'm going to say merge layers. It takes a little bit of time. This takes a lot of processing. But what that does is it keeps all of your layers in that folder, but I'm going to turn the folder off, and now I have a combined layer of just my creature. Yes, Tracy.
Can you merge layers with your cone stamp layer as well as your
You can.
for your final project?
Well, you wouldn't need to do it for your final product because we keep the PSD for ourselves with all of those layers so we can keep playing with them. When we save it out as a JPEG or as a PNG, that already merges it for us so that we can post it somewhere. And the deliverable project, the piece of this that we're going to be turning in, is going to be a flattened, well, it's not going to be flattened. It's going to be a PNG with no background, so it'll be like a perfect cutout of a sticker. But it will be all merged together, no matter how many layers we have. So for this step, now I'm going to turn just the gray back on. And now I'm going to clean up all these outside edges. Okay? So there's a few ways I can do it. When I have an easy background, like this wing, I can use Magic Wand with contiguous and a 3-pixel feather and just select the blue and then delete, 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 delete. It will bite away and give me a nice clean edge. What do I mean by that? It means when I turn off the background, it is all creature, all sharp and clean, no debris, no soft edges floating away. Now where I didn't get that with the Magic Wand, I can go ahead and do it and delete, delete, delete. But that's all with it. Now it's all in one combined layer. So I don't need to switch to a new layer to get the green and to delete, 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 delete. The problem is the green isn't as even as the blue was. So the Magic Wand works in some places to get all that green, but not in other places. So, and this looks okay, but this wouldn't get like meets full requirement marks because there's like little floating debris around it, right? The gray can help show you that. So instead, what can you do? Well, you're going to do what I do here. You're going to use your Lasso tool with a 3-pixel feather. Don't do more than 3 pixels or it will get too soft. And then I'm going to find the edge I want to keep. And I'm just going to delete it out. Now, if you cut too much, you can always do Command Z or go back in your history. But remember, you also have all of the input layers if you ever needed to get something back. This just makes it more efficient. It's all in one place. So a big difference there, right? Okay, now I'm going to zoom in, Command plus. I'm going to work around the exterior edges. And I'm just going to use my Lasso tool. And I might even see little things I messed up. But I can work on that now. Like I left a little debris from these scales not erased away from the outer ear. But there'll be a fix for all of that. And I'm zoomed in only at 100%. Remember, don't go more than 200%. Or you're just wasting time. And professional art is all about using your time effectively. There is the cliche of time is money. I've heard that more than once in my professional capacity. And while I'm cutting this out, I'm deciding on the silhouette. You know, if I want to point the ears, or if I want to round them out, if I want to make them jagged or soft, I can do all of that with my lasso. As long as I have some sort of feather, it will soften it and make it look believable. If I don't have any feather on it, if it's 0-pixel feather, then when I delete, it's going to go between the edges of square pixels. And it's going to look very, very fake, you know, kind of broken and digital. So that feather is important. And I get to like completely design the outside edge of this face. And I'm going to just take these whiskers out because I don't like how green they are. Because they're too green. It's not worth the effort. I could always composite in other whiskers from another source, and that would be easier than trying to change fully green whiskers into believable looking whiskers, if that makes sense.
I don't know why, but I always think that the whiskers are just barely noticeable though.
Yeah. No, they're helpful. If I wasn't doing a quick composite, I would take the time to find some good whisker reference.
So does it really matter if certain animals have whiskers or not? What I'm trying to say is it's okay to just cut off the whiskers.
Yeah, it's okay to make any creative decisions for yours. For sure. So like when I'm finding the edge of the neck here, this looks pretty arbitrary, right? This is the arm coming down, and I get to decide where that arm edge happens, and I get to decide where the neck happens. And I trim it accordingly. Just like when I was cutting out from stones in the foreground on the landscape, you decide where your edges go. Right? That's your main control. That's why the silhouette is so important to your character design. You want to know what's essential, and whiskers are not essential. Little stray hairs are not essential. They could be nice. You can take the time to include them, but it's up to you. I like to delete in this way in little chunks. So you'll see I'll kind of loop around. Little chunks. So how is this like building a car? Well, this is like scraping off all those welds to make sure you have kind of a sleek exterior. Sometimes you might need to zoom in and detail it, like around these talons. Before I do too much or go too fast, chunk that out, and then zoom in a little bit. Yeah, because I am missing some things. Remember I said feet were the hardest reference to get. They're often blurry. These feet are kind of blurry, but I'm also zoomed in 300%, which is more than I need, so I can zoom out. And I can use the sharpen tool to kind of bring that edge back, but it's better if I just cut them out first. Yeah, they're actually, if you do look at them, they do have kind of a really bluish tint to them. Kind of purplish blue on birds of prey. And I don't know what gives them that. They're different than fingernails, though. So remember, if you mess up like I did, you can always hold down Option and subtract away from your selection. And you can always hold down Shift and add to your selection. And here I am, zooming in at 300% again, a little bit more than I need. So let's zoom out. Try not to be too perfectionist, which is so easy to do. Yep. Why do they have to have so many edges, these birds? Yeah. Those of you who just did tortoise shells, you have it easy. So when it's a less regular texture, like the edges of that leg, I just wobble my lasso a little bit so it's a little bit jagged. Or if it's fur or feathers. When it's a smooth texture, I just keep it smooth. But you have to decide where that edge is. And to make it a believable composite, you got to kind of cut that out with confidence. Now remember, this is on a